If your income is increasing but your physical condition is declining, you need to take that seriously. I'm not saying that from the outside looking in. I'm saying it as someone building while still protecting training and health, because I know exactly what it feels like to wake up and your brain is already processing problems before your feet hit the floor. I know what it feels like to have decisions stack on top of decisions, and what usually happens is not laziness, it's prioritization drift. When you first start building, you're disciplined everywhere. You train, you eat structured, you move with intensity, but as the business grows, your attention narrows. You optimize marketing, you tighten margins, you build systems, you delegate, you measure everything. And meanwhile, your body slowly moves off the priority list. You skip sessions because a call ran long. You grab whatever food is fastest because it's efficient. You sleep less because the only quiet time you get is late at night. And none of those decisions feel reckless in isolation, they feel rational. But rational short-term decisions can produce irrational long-term outcomes. Zoom out, and what you've done is scale revenue while letting physical capacity stagnant. And that imbalance eventually shows up whether you want it to or not. Not just in how you look, but in how you operate. Because you end up wired but tired, dependent on caffeine, slightly inflamed, more brain fog at night, less patient, more reactive, and you start losing sharpness in the parts of the day where you need it the most. The mistake most business owners make is assuming time is the constraint. It isn't. Structure is the constraint. You don't lack hours, you lack architecture. If your week collapses because 3 45-minute training sessions are on the calendar, that's not a time issue, that's a system issue. You would never allow a revenue stream to rely on perfect conditions. You design your business to survive volatility. Yet most men design their fitness around ideal weeks, and that is why it keeps breaking. If your plan requires low stress, open mornings, and predictable days, it will fail the moment growth accelerates. The solution isn't more motivation, it's a lower friction operating model that survives chaos. 3 sessions per week scheduled in advance and treated like investor calls, not if I have time workouts. And if the week becomes chaotic, you reduce volume, not consistency. You do 25 minutes, you hit 2 compound lifts, you leave, and you protect continuity above all else because continuity is what compounds. Let's talk physiology in terms that actually matter to you as an operator. When muscle mass declines and overall activity drops, metabolic flexibility decreases. You become less efficient at handling carbohydrates, insulin sensitivity worsens, cortisol stays elevated longer under stress, sleep quality drops, testosterone can trend down under chronic stress combined with poor recovery, and that is not cosmetic, that is operational. It affects clarity, decisiveness, emotional regulation, and risk tolerance. You might not even notice it dramatically, but you'll feel it subtly. You'll be slightly more reactive, slightly more fatigued, slightly less patient in negotiations, slightly less sharp late in the day, and you'll start leaning hard on stimulants to force output instead of building a body that produces output naturally. You don't just lose muscle, you lose leverage of your own nervous system. And when you're responsible for outcomes that matters, high performance requires capacity, and capacity is built physically. You cannot outsource that. Most of the decline happens quietly, and that's why it sneaks up on high performers. Monday, you're disciplined. Tuesday fills up. Wednesday becomes reactive. Thursday, you plan to reset. Friday runs long. Saturday is catch up. Sunday, you convince yourself next week will be structured, and every week has a reason. That's what makes it dangerous, because it never feels irresponsible. But small deviations repeated weekly become identity. And once identity shifts, behavior follows automatic. If you see yourself as someone too busy to train, you will act accordingly. If you see yourself as someone who trains regardless of chaos, your behavior will reflect that. This isn't motivation talk, it's operational reality. Identity dictates what is negotiable and what is not. And right now, too many men treat their body like the one part of life that can run on improvisation. So here is the structural fix, and I'm going to make this practical enough that you can implement it without overhauling your entire life. Install a minimum effective training system that survives your busiest quarter. 3 days per week. Upper body, push and pull on 1 day, lower body on day 2, upper emphasis in accessories on day 3. Prioritize compound movements because they provide the highest return per minute invested. Pressing variations, rows, squats or leg presses, hip hinges, pull-ups or pull-downs. Track load and reps weekly because progressive overload is your KPI. You don't need novelty, you need measurable improvement. If you can track conversion rates and CAC, you can track incline press and Romanian deadlift progression. You keep sessions under 1 hour, intensity controlled, form strict, leave with energy, not exhaustion, because the goal is stimulus and adaptation, not a session that destroys you and ruins the next 2 days of productivity. Nutrition needs to be simplified in a way that reduces decision fatigue and protects your energy during jam-packed days. Most entrepreneurs undereat during the day and then overconsume at night. Coffee replaces breakfast, meetings replace lunch, and then by 8 p.m., you are starving and you order whatever is fastest, which creates blood sugar swings, worsens sleep, worse recovery, and a repeat of the same cycle the next day. So we anchor the day with protein and distribute carbs so you have stable fuel. At minimum, hit 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight daily. That's the floor for preserving and building lean mass while under stress. Let's say you weigh 190 pounds, that is roughly 150 grams. More is fine, but that baseline matters. Protein regulates hunger, stabilizes blood sugar, supports recovery, and protects muscle during fat loss phases. But protein alone is not enough. Carbohydrates matter for someone running high cognitive output every single day. Carbs are fuel. They support training performance. They support nervous system function. They support mood stability. And if you try to run a demanding business on chronically low carbs, you will feel it. Energy will dip harder. Stress tolerance decreases. Training quality suffers, and you end up more dependent on caffeine. The practical move is 3 to 4 structured meals with protein anchored and carbs present. Breakfast with protein and carbs, lunch with protein and carbs, dinner protein centered with moderate carbs. And if you need it, a shake or yogurt bowl to close the protein gap. This isn't about tracking to the decimal, it's about reducing chaos so your energy becomes predictable. Now we set calories based on the goal so you can stop guessing. If you're above roughly 18 to 20% body fat, start with a modest 300 to 400 calorie deficit from maintenance, not aggressive, and you track weekly averages, not daily noise. If the scale doesn't move for 3 weeks, you adjust by 150 to 200 calories or increase daily steps. If weight drops too quickly, you increase calories slightly to preserve muscle. If you're lean and you want to build size, add 200 to 300 calories above maintenance and aim for slow weekly weight gain, roughly a quarter to a half a pound per week. If you gain faster than that consistently, pull it back slightly. This is controlled iteration, the same logic you use in business when you test an offer. Watch the data and adjust inputs. Except here, the system is your physiology. Movement outside the gym is your daily baseline, and it matters more than most men realize. 10,000 steps per day on average is sufficient for most business owners. It regulates stress, improves insulin sensitivity, increases daily energy expenditure without interfering with recovery, and it gives you a reliable lever you can pull without turning your life into a cardio program. Walk during calls, schedule short walks after meals, use walking as decompression instead of scrolling. This is movement hygiene, not punishment. When daily movement drops too low, everything else becomes harder. Hunger regulation worsens, energy fluctuates more, mood stability declines, and your body becomes less tolerant to normal lifestyle flexibility. Keep the baseline high and you keep your margin of error wide. Sleep is not optional if you care about performance. 7 hours minimum, 8 if possible. Consistent sleep and wake up times. Lower lights at night, reduce screens right before bed. You cannot compensate for chronic sleep debt with supplements or stimulants. Poor sleep is going to increase your cortisol, reduce insulin sensitivity, impair muscle recovery, and can even lower testosterone, which becomes more relevant as you get older. If you treat sleep as optional, you are voluntarily lowering your cognitive output. And for someone running a business, that is an unacceptable inefficiency. When you get sleep right, everything else becomes easier. Hunger is more stable, training feels better, stress is less reactive, and your decisions are cleaner. Now, zoom out beyond this quarter, beyond this year, and actually think 10 years forward. Revenue is higher, network is stronger, assets have compounded, you've built something real, but biology doesn't compound the same way money does. Muscle becomes way harder to build as you age. Recovery is going to slow down. Testosterone naturally trends downward if you're not actively protecting it. Metabolic rate gradually declines if lean mass declines, and the margin for error narrows. When you're 25, you can skip sleep and still look decent. When you're 35 or 45, that same pattern shows up on your waistline, your blood work, and your energy levels. And the thing most ambitious men don't calculate is that rebuilding later is exponentially harder than maintaining now. You tell yourself you'll lock in once the business stabilizes, but by then you have more responsibility, not less. More meetings, more stress, more obligations. The idea that you'll suddenly have more time later is usually an illusion. Structure now prevents regret later. And if kids are part of the plan or already part of your life, the stakes increase. Your body becomes more than your personal asset. It becomes modeling. 10 years from now, are you the father who has energy to move, to play, to be present to demonstrate discipline without lecturing? Or are you the father who's successful but always constantly tired, physically checked out, constantly busy, always needing a minute? Kids don't listen to what you say, they absorb what you are. If they see you prioritize structure, strength, sleep, and health while building something meaningful, that becomes their baseline for adulthood. And beyond modeling, there's longevity. You want to see your family grow, muscle mass, cardiovascular health, metabolic flexibility. These aren't vanity metrics. They are protective variables for aging. The more lean mass you carry into your 40s and 50s, the easier it's going to be to maintain independence, hormonal stability, and cognitive clarity. It's not dramatic. That is biological math. This is why I keep saying your body is infrastructure, not decoration. Muscle is a metabolic currency. It protects insulin sensitivity. It protects metabolic rate. It protects joint integrity. It protects hormonal health. It widens your margin of error. Lose that currency and your lifestyle variability starts to cost more. Keep that currency and you stay resilient under pressure. Chronic stress without physical output accelerates aging markers. Elevated cortisol over long periods influences fat distribution, sleep fragmentation, blood pressure, and inflammation. Resistance training acts as a counterweight. It improves insulin sensitivity, improves mitochondrial density, increases neuromuscular efficiency, and builds resilience capital. You're not just lifting weights, you're investing in capacity. At this point, the conclusion is simple and it's not motivational, it's operational. Your plan must survive chaos. Never build a fitness system that requires a perfect week. If a week explodes, you reduce duration, not consistency. If travel happens, you maintain protein and steps and hit simplified training. If business dinners happen, you keep protein anchored and treat carbs strategically, not emotionally. You don't start over every season. You adjust within standards. And to make this sustainable long-term, treat your body like a division of your company. Audit quarterly, review body weight trends, strength metrics, sleep consistency, energy levels. Adjust inputs like you would a marketing campaign, not emotionally, not impulsively, strategically. Income rising and capacity rising simultaneously is leverage. Income rising while capacity declines is an imbalance. You built a company from nothing. You can build your body with structure. The only question is whether you're willing to hold yourself to the same standard.